And once again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are watching or listening to this video. Hope your Monday went okay as we get ready for another week. Wanted to talk a little baseball, a little nostalgic baseball. I saw something on Twitter slash X uh, earlier today by one of my good buddies, Bob Kendrick, who is the manager of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. If you ever get a chance to get down to Kansas City, you definitely ought to check that out. I want to send a shout out to Bob. But he referenced an article from the Sporting News back in 1948, which talked about the signing of then Satchel Paige by the then Cleveland Indians by Bill Veeck. And as he stated, many, including the Sporting News, weren't thrilled about Bill Veeck's signing of Satchel Paige on this date in 1948. But Veeck's response to Spink's and Satchel's performance that season shut up a lot of naysayers. Now, J. Taylor Spink, the editor of the Sporting News, which was sort of like the Bible of baseball back in the day, basically said to sign a hurler at Paige's age is to demean the standards of baseball. Were Satchel white, he would not have even drawn a second thought from Veeck. Now, he wound up helping the Indians win the pennant that year, by the way. It was a long period of time before they had won. And by the way, just a year earlier, he had signed another former Negro Leaguer, of course, Larry Doby, who then broke the American League color barrier at the time. Now, Veeck, in answering back to Sporting News, basically said, were Satchel white, he would have been in the majors 25 years earlier, and the question wouldn't have been before the House. Now, he had made, Veeck, to his credit, made a whole lot of strides in regards to signing and having former Negro Leaguers play on his team. I mentioned Larry Doby. I also mentioned Satchel Paige, but eventually he would also sign guys like Luke Easter, Harry Suitcase Simpson, and many other folks. Also, I believe he also signed Vic Power, who would later go on to play with the Yankees. But there's another story about Veeck that a lot of people may not know. Back in the 40s, he tried to buy the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Phillies, as if you're familiar with their history, were god-awful back in the day. Just one of the worst franchises, not just in baseball, but just in all the professional sports. And he made a point to try to buy the Phillies, and he was going to infiltrate the roster with several players from the Philadelphia Stars. Now, the Philadelphia Stars was a dominant team in the Negro National Leagues in the 30s and 40s. They actually won the Negro League Championship back in 1934. And privately, his plan was he was going to infiltrate the Phillies roster with several players from the Philadelphia Stars. Well, what wound up happening is that the word got out that he was going to do this, and then all of a sudden, someone else was able to buy the Phillies. Veeck was basically, for lack of a better word, cock-blocked into not buying the Phillies. Now, how would the Phillies' history change? Now, yes, the Phillies did wind up getting to the World Series in 1950, but they never won a World Series until 1980. Matter of fact, when they got there in 1950, that was the last time. That was the last time they had gotten to the World Series before 1980, and everybody remembers the great collapse in 1964. So, again, Bill Veeck was one of the early champions of the Negro Leagues. Matter of fact, when he signed Larry Doby, he actually compensated the Newark Bears, the team that he was playing on at the time. And this is something that was at that time really unprecedented. Many of the major league teams that infiltrated the major league rosters, they never gave financial compensation to those Negro League teams. Branch Rickey never compensated the Brooklyn Dodgers. To my knowledge, many of the subsequent players that were signed, like prominent players like Willie Mays, not Larry Doby, but Roy Campanella, Don Newcomb, who played for the Baltimore Elite Giants, they were not compensated by Major League Baseball. They literally just took them off the roster and signed them to minor league contracts, and eventually would go on to play in the major league. So basically, want to give an assist to Bob Kendrick for bringing up the topic today, but also just a reminder of the struggles that the Negro Leaguers went through. But thankfully, there were champions within Major League Baseball that did try to give these guys their due, and Bill Veeck was definitely one of those guys. So again, just something to think about down the road. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are watching this. And as always, we will talk to you again soon. Take care.